Hi. Hey. Hey, Bachi. Hey, everyone else. Hey, Mel. So today we're going to call this episode Tell Mel. First episode of Tell Mel. Right? We're going to make a series. Mel is my wife. She's sitting right here. And what?
Looking at you.
The noise you made. Babe. Babe. I'm talking to people here. Okay. Take 5. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Tell Mel. Mel is my wife. She's sitting right here drinking her K-cup. Very embarrassing. Hi, Melly. Anyways, today we'll be discussing other ways to make coffee. So today we're going to be discussing 3 different methods to make a filter coffee. We're going to be talking about a classic pour-over method using a V60. So just your basic filter, put the coffee in, pour water on top. We'll talk about the recipe. We're going to be talking about a standard AeroPress recipe. You put the coffee in, you put the water in, you let it sit there and brew, kind of like tea. It's called immersion, then you press it through. And we're going to be talking about our pushover method, using the JOEPRESSO attachment for the AeroPress. And Melly does all the work behind the scenes for the JOEPRESSO. So when you're getting your shipment, it's probably coming from her hands. Thank you, Melly, and you're welcome. Okay, so why do we need another method? As I said, with a pour-over, you're putting the coffee in, you're pouring water on top, the water flows through the coffee. It's called percolation. And this is one of the best methods to make coffee, but also one of the harder ones, because the way you pour the water, the way it agitates those beans, the way it flows through them and the amount of time it takes for the coffee to flow through, all affects the final brew. And it's hard to control sometimes because different coffees have different amount of fines that clog the filter or have the potential to do so. And so a lot of variables to consider: how you're pouring. You pour in the center in a steady line, you pour from above, you pour closer to the beans, you pour in a circular motion. All of those things are variables. Then you have your immersion method, which is you put the beans and the coffee in together, you steep it, like I said, like tea, and then you slowly press it through. If you press too hard, it's going to strip some of the fine particles from the coffee, creating more bitterness. So the flow rate's very important. Melly, you're losing interest. Hello, you're still there? Okay, I know you are. Okay, and then lastly we have JOEPRESSO. Now, why do we need another method? Well, like I said, this is straight immersion, this is percolation, but it has a lot of variables. JOEPRESSO allows you to create a layer of coffee using the basket. So you put the filter in, you put grinds in, you top it off with a dispersion screen, and you have a puck here, which will not be disturbed no matter how you pour the coffee. And it also allows you to control the flow rate because of this small little hole. Sorry, Bachi's having a good time over there. Bachi, come. Come here. So, you have this basically a puck, and you're controlling the flow rate through the coffee. And because it's pressurized, you will never go really fast, and you're not going to strip too many of those fine particles from the coffee. So that's the pushover method. Questions? So let's start with the pour-over method. Let me get set up. I'll be right back. Today, okay. All right, so we got this coffee yesterday. It's Sightseer coffee. It's a Sunshine Daydream Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, light roasted, washed, processed. Yummy, yummy. I've weighed out 15 grams for each of our recipes. Woman grown, woman owned. Anyways, these are the filters. These are the drippers we have. This is a classic V60. This is a classic V60. This is a stupid thing that I never want to use again. This is just a larger version of that with a switch attached to the bottom. The switch is much nicer to use and has some other purposes. This is a Melita style filter in Tiffany blue. We like the Tiffany blue, we don't like Melita. This is a gold-plated metal mesh filter / dripper that you wanted from Japan. Very nice. We have the Kalita Wave, the flat bottom dripper. They all do very similar things. You put the coffee in, you pour water, coffee comes out the bottom. They all have the same problems with agitation when you're pouring, so you have to take all those things into account with all of them. We're just going to use the classic. Okay. Okay, so for all recipes, we're going to be talking about proportions of coffee to water. That's all I have to say. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to keep the same proportions for all of the recipes. It's going to be 15 grams of coffee to 250 of water. Therefore, 16.666 recipe, the devil's recipe.
Roman, again.
Why? Why?
Okay, what are you going to say?
I wanted to say that. No, why not?
Don't say that.
Oh, devil?
No.
Why?
Did people say that?
I say it. Melly says she's bored, so I'll try to keep this quick. Basically, we're going to start with the pour-over, but all recipes... What are you doing? All the recipes have a coffee to water ratio. We're going to use the same one. We're going to use 15 grams of coffee, and we're going to use 250 grams of water for all the recipes. To keep it simple, we're also going to simplify this by having only 3 pours. We're going to have a bloom pour, which is going to be 45 grams. Then we're going to have the first pour, which is going to be more aggressive, up to 150. And then we're going to have a second pour up to 250 grams, and that's it. Second pour is going to be very subtle, so you don't disturb the grinds as much. Let's do this. Okay, so we insert the filter and we have to rinse it primarily to heat up the dripper because it's cold glass. Now we discard of this water. Okay, so we've ground the beans at a 10 setting on the white grinder, which is a Sculptor, Timor Sculptor 78. And we just want to pour them in fairly evenly. Okay, we're going to turn on the scale. We're going to turn on the timer, and we're going to pour 45 grams of water in for the bloom. You just want to make sure all the grinds get wet. And we can even stir them up to make sure they all get wet. Just don't poke a hole in it, in the filter. Okay. Now we're going to wait till the timer hits a minute. And then we're going to pour water until the scale hits 150 grams. We can be a little bit aggressive here on the first pour because we want to extract more of the flavor during the first pour. Good. And we're using water straight off boil, which is 94 degrees here in Colorado. So that's about a minute, and we're going to start in the middle, and we're going to go outwards and back inwards, but never go too close to the edges. So don't pour directly on the filter or it's going to get clogged. And give it another little shake just to level out the grinds. And now we're going to wait about 15 seconds and then do our second pour. In the second pour, you just want to be gentle with it. You don't want to disturb the grinds now. So just pour straight down the middle. And just a thin stream. And keep the kettle down close to the grinds. And that's 250. And it should be done around 3.5 minutes. Maybe there are too many fines. It's Ethiopia after all. So we can actually stop it at 4 minutes. It's a switch, so we stop the drip, and whatever is left is left. We can actually just top it off a little bit if we want to compensate for that, and we're good. Okay, then we have our first cup. Let's taste it. You usually want to give it a swirl or a stir before you drink it. It smells nice. I like this one. Can I keep it? Okay, I can try it. She approves. Okay, let's move on. These are all the AeroPresses we have. These are the new clear ones. This is the classic one. This is the Go, a little bit smaller, and this is the new premium glass metal, beautiful one. They all take the exact same filters. They work the same way. We're just going to use a standard size one today and with a standard recipe. So let's make an AeroPress. We put the filter in. We can rinse it. James Hoffman says you don't have to, and I'm fine with not rinsing it. We add our 15 grams of coffee. I ground this slightly finer because it's not going to clog the filter like it would with a pourover. So I went on a 7 instead of a 10. We add the grinds. Turn on the scale, and we're going to try to fit 250 in here. Start a timer. I like to swirl it. Okay, and just a little bit over, that's fine. And what we want to do is we're going to give it a quick stir just to make sure all the grinds are saturated with water, and then we're going to top it off, and that will stop it from the water from dripping through. We're going to wait until it hits about minute 45. We're going to take it off, give it another quick stir, and then we're going to slowly press through. Okay, we're at minute 45. And give it another stir. And top it off, and we're actually going to wait for another 30 seconds or so before we press. This way the grinds have some time to settle down at the bottom. Hopefully in a flat pattern, but we can also just even them out afterwards. Okay, it's about 230. And here you just want to be really gentle. No, not rushing it, just kind of use the weight of your arm. Okay, and that's the hiss. So we're done here. And again, this took just over 4 minutes. Should be good. Would you like to try? Okay, for the pushover, we're using our JOEPRESSO. For those who don't know, it's an adapter ring, a pressurized espresso basket, and then dispersion screen on top. We made this to make espresso with your AeroPress originally, but I got inspired by Scott Rowe's Filter 2, which is basically using an espresso basket with a paper filter. So this is a standard 51 millimeter espresso paper filter. And instead of using espresso grind, we're actually going to use a coarser grind similar to what you would use for a pour-over. Okay, so we're going to add the paper filter into the basket. Then we're going to add our grinds. I ground it at 8.5, so it's between the filter and the AeroPress grind size. So put the grinds in, level them out, best you can. You can use a tamper that we have over there. You don't have to. Tighten it. Here's the scale. We're adding 250 grams again. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place it on our stand. And we're going to start the timer. Just so we know. But basically, you can press as hard as you can or not as hard as you can. Basically, give it a decent press. And it should be done in around 2 minutes, which is twice as fast as the other two methods. But it does take a bit of effort. All right. So this took 2 minutes and 40 seconds. A bit longer than usual, but fine. You just pull up. Stop it. And there you have it. All right, so here we have the 3 coffees we brewed. First one was the pour-over, second one was the AeroPress, and the third one was the pushover method. Now, Melly tasted all 3, and she says the first one, the pour-over, was the most floral.
No, fruity.
Sorry, most fruity and candy. The second one was raspberry and floral. And this one was the most lemony, so like the lemon custard they have listed there. So all 3 of those flavors came through. They were on the label, just one for each brew method. Now, I don't know if it's the brew method or the different grind sizes I use for each one of them or some other factors, but you were here to experience all of that, so maybe you can try recreating them using these 3 methods and play with the grind size, with the water temperatures and the ratios. But now you have another tool in your arsenal. And with that, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Melly, for sitting through this. And I hope you enjoyed at least one of them enough to try drinking something other than K-Cup. I'll keep trying.